sleep. He stood there watching until he heard the boy's breathing change. Nestled against the warmth of Lorraine's back, he fell asleep again almost immediately, only to be woken when the baby began to cry and Lorraine, half blindly, lifted her from the cot and into their bed, fingers unfastening the nightgown at her breast. "I'll go down," Will said. "Make some tea." 5:09. Easing back the curtains, he saw not a wolf, but the blurred outline of a fox, tail up, head high, making its dainty way along the edge of open field beyond the garden end. By the time Will had showered and shaved, made a fresh pot of tea and some toast, Lorraine, wearing a sweatshirt and jeans, hair pulled loosely back, had come downstairs. "She's gone off again." "And Jake? Still sleeping?" Will poured the tea. "I saw a fox," he said. "The same one as before?" "I think so. It's difficult to tell." Lorraine nodded absent-mindedly. "I was talking to Penny Travis in the village. You know, she does some child-minding. I mentioned her before." Will looked at her, set aside the knife. "She says she might have a vacancy later in the year, for Susie, once Jake's started school proper." "We've been through all this," Will said. "I know, but I still think—" "And I thought we'd agreed." "You'd agreed?" Will sighed. "I think you should stay home with her a little longer, that's all." "How much longer?" "Longer than you did with Jake." "There's nothing wrong with Jake. Nursery's been good for him. You said so yourself." "That's not the point." "Well, then what is?" "I just don't think Susie should be with somebody else. Not this soon. It doesn't seem right." "Fine. You stay home with her then." "How am I supposed to do that?" "Take time off from your job." "I can't." "Then get another job."
"Now you're being stupid."
"Am I?"
"Yes."
"Okay then. That's what I am." Lorraine slammed the door behind her, feet heavy on the stairs. Will poured what was left of his tea down the sink. Minutes later, he was in his car and driving south. The radio turned up loud. No idea what he was listening to or why. When Lorraine had first become pregnant with Jake, they had decided to move out to the country. A larger house, more garden, a nicer environment in which to bring up kids. For Will, it meant a longish commute, 40 minutes when the traffic was with him, often more. A pain at first, but worth the stress. Helen Walker's blue VW was in the car park before him, but she was not at her desk. Outside, Will thought, sneaking a cigarette. He had given up himself 2 years before, and no amount of mints could disguise the smell on her breath. They had worked together in the major investigation team for close on 3 years, Helen and himself, and for much of that time they'd been based at Histon, a couple of miles north of Cambridge. The police station there was fairly recent, a brick-built 2-story building with a car park too small for its needs, and a stairway that was wide enough for a half-decent game of five-a-side. Now, however, they were close to Cambridge city centre, in a building that was a testament to the ugliness of most mid-60s architecture in general, and concrete in particular. Will, as detective inspector, held the higher rank, but most of the time that wasn't how it seemed. He and Helen were more like partners. Sometimes one would lead, sometimes the other. "You look tired," Helen said. She was balancing 2 styrofoam cups of coffee, one on top of the other. "I'm fine," Will replied. "Baby keeping you awake?" "I said I'm fine." Sharp as ice. Helen set one of the coffees on his desk and studied his face. "You and Lorraine had a row?" "Jesus!" Will exclaimed. "All right," Helen said with a grin. "You want me to mind my own business, that it?" "Yeah, mind your own fucking business." Helen laughed. The phone rang on Will's desk and she picked it up. After listening for several moments, she reached for a pen and wrote a name and an address on the back of her wrist. "Right," she said, putting down the phone. "You want something to take your mind off things? This might do the trick." Will's first thought when he saw the man's face